You're listening to Gym Owner Jams.
Welcome to another episode of Gym Owner Jams. A lot has happened since last week, but before we start, we'll let Carl give us an update on what happened in the CrossFit world.
So CrossFit has just been bought, all right, by Eric, what's his name? Eric Rosa, all right. Eric Rosa he owned a company called Data Logics that he sold to Oracle, the data analytics company, for $1.2 billion. Not too bad, small little payday. And if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I think he went into a CEO type role of Oracle after the company was bought as well.
Not specifically for Oracle, but
data management.
But managing the data management side, yeah. So he's obviously well versed in the running of a large company, and then also he has a affiliate. I think it's coming up on their 10-year anniversary, which is CrossFit Sanitas in Boulder, Colorado, with a member base of over 400 people at the moment. And he recently just purchased CrossFit from Greg Glassman, which is quite well. It hasn't been finalized yet. The deal only will only be finalized next month. But yesterday there was a YouTube live event where CrossFit introduced him to affiliate owners and to athletes and to people around there, which was quite interesting to watch. So we'll discuss some of that stuff through the course of the podcast, I guess. What are your guys' thoughts on what you've heard so far? Exciting or nerve-wracking?
Well, it is exciting. It's sort of what we've been saying we were hoping for. A lot of us wanted change. Then Greg stepping down was not enough. Dave Castro becoming new CEO was not enough. We wanted some Greg Glassman to relinquish control, and now that has happened. And now, it's like you gave the company an ultimatum. They've brought their end of the deal or closed the deal on their side, and now we can look to the future, which is exciting. I mean, I also watched the live event, and it just seems to me that it's more of a business mind taking over corporate, and maybe that was the migration from the garage gym CrossFit idea Greg Glassman had in mind to a more professionalized gym environment. I mean, I completely look at it that way, where you had the garage gym setup being a major success in the early 2010s up to 2014. Things started professionalizing, moving away from the garage gym setup. Aesthetics mattered a bit more, a clean gym and all those things started to matter more. Obviously, some of those older gyms did not adapt with the times, and unfortunately they're no longer around. This is very similar to this. You have a company that has outgrown its owner because he didn't want to change. I'm very excited. To see what this guy can bring to the table in the next. Well, I think we're going to see some changes happen pretty quickly.
well, it's been forced. And I think the good thing about it is, he is an affiliate owner, which means that he's coming from a place where he's been dealing with what we've been dealing with. So he has the ability to make a direct change, and he's decided to do that, which I think is always positive, because his member base will be affected, I think, by whatever decisions he makes or whatever decisions CrossFit makes from here on out. So, you've got to think that the guy's got the affiliate's best interests at heart. I think that, for us in our position, I think it was probably a good idea for us to wait on any sort of decision when it comes to the affiliation situation, just because, like has been said a lot of the time, this type of thing is what everybody was calling for. A drastic change where Glassman is out completely. And now we can start to see that forward thinking. Like you say, the business model of what CrossFit is evolved. It's not the same as what it was even in 2014 or 2015. You know what I mean?
So you mentioned two things talking on this taking over that really interested me, or that made me quite excited. And the first thing he said was he's never been one to let a disaster go to waste. So what obviously meaning by that is that now is the time to change, and it's a great time to get in there and make all the changes that need to happen, which is pretty exciting. And then what he also said at the end when he was asked, what do you have to say to affiliates, was he said, anyone that's left or is on the fence, come back and give us a try. Come back and trial us and see if the change is what is worthwhile, which I think is it's a bold statement to make. We spoke about it earlier today, was you know, someone like a Greg Glassman in the past may have come out and said to those gyms, well, we don't want you back. We don't need you. Go and do your own thing. Whereas he is now putting out the message that if you are unsure, or if you feel like you still believe in this CrossFit, then come back and give us a shot and see if we can change things for you.
I think the fact that he's an active CrossFitter himself, he's got times, he's got things that are, you know, he's done the benchmarks, he's got
240 frames.
240
ridiculous.
frames.
I mean, the fact that the guy has done CrossFit for such a long time on a personal level, and it's not just for health purposes, you know, he's actually logged scores and he's been competitive to a certain degree in his own realm. Makes a big difference to our outlook, because we've been saying from the start, you know, what's going to happen with the competition season? How is that part of the business going to be integrated into what the new CrossFit looks like? And I think that's an important direction, because on paper they've said in the past, or CrossFit has said in the past, it's all about the health and it's all about this message, and we want to take our attention away from the expensive games. And he also mentioned that CrossFit Games and the competitive side of it is a huge draw card for not only new members, but it's a constant inspiration for people to keep training week in and week out. These small little markers that people achieve are not comparative to massive scores that competitors worldwide might post, but it makes a difference to them to have a competitive platform to work with. And I think hopefully that's something that they're going to bring back, or something, the intention they're going to bring back in the future.
Also, if you look at that, the inspiration side of things, and maybe something that he spoke about in general, but didn't really bring it up, didn't go into detail about it, was, you know, to see the top people in the world still improving on things like a Fran time or a deadlift or a back squat is very, very encouraging to a Joe Schmo who comes into the gym and who just got a PB. That means, like, even at the end scale, there's room for improvement. So I think that is kind of the inspiration probably that they're going to look to target when it comes to marketing and things like that. It's just it's not necessarily like CrossFit has been seen over the last couple of years, which is a separation of a sport and a methodology, which has its merits, but I think they blend very nicely, and I think it's very difficult to separate the two completely without there being some sort of integration between the two of them.
Well, I think also the training methodology will evolve because of what the data that we collect from these top tier athletes. We're only seeing what human evolution can be when these guys pull these things off. You know, when something new is introduced, someone hits a new marker, it only happens with these top tier guys. You don't see a guy in the middle of a gym in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have any skills to brag about achieving these fantastic things. It's these guys at the brink of the sport that are pushing the limits, and that in turn has this waterfall effect. It has this drop down effect where we see the results in training. In 6 months' time, we've adapted a movement, or we've added a parameter, or the scaling option has changed, or the RX weight has gone slightly up, because now we see not only is one guy able to do it, 10 guys are able to do it. So they are the forerunners, I think, for the evolution of how this methodology is going to go forward, because this, like anything, could stagnate if you don't have those people constantly pushing the boundaries, you know?
You know, he spoke about, and this is maybe something you can talk a little bit more about, Chooks, because you're quite passionate about the whole CrossFit as a sport thing and where it can go and how it can become so successful. The other thing he spoke about was the UFC in particular and Ironman. And he was saying how they've grown over the last 15 years or so. And the funny thing is, they don't have 15,000 affiliates that are doing their training, that are training for Ironman or training for the UFC, but yet it's still so massively growing. So there's no reason why CrossFit can't be such a massive sport. He didn't say that in so many words, but that's kind of what he was alluding to, I think.
What it is, and I think, I agreed with the Greg's vision that it's a sport and they're focusing on their health, but you can't have the one without the other. You don't have PE, soccer and rugby without the Premier League and Rugby World Cup and Super Rugby.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a fighting gym, MMA style gym, without a UFC or one of the other platforms we spoke about last week. The CrossFit Games is the pinnacle of the sport, it's the showcase, but it's like Nick says, it brings people through the door. This guy said it as well. I just feel that it was managed incorrectly. They were managing the sport as CrossFit Games as something that will by itself have a profit and loss effect. That's not the way you can do it. You should say to yourself, if this games is a success, how many affiliates do I add in the next year? How many members do I add to those affiliates? This guy coming from a data management background, I can almost guarantee that he would like affiliates to constantly update him on the member base so that they can have a deeper look into, okay, we are saying there's 15,000 affiliates worldwide. How many people are active members of those boxes? Because that's how you measure the CrossFit Games as a success. You can't say the games cost me $1 million and we only made $400,000 in ticket sales, because that's not the measure. So I'm very excited to see how those things will translate. I mean, I love data, so that for me, this guy's background is just in sync with what I'm doing. I'm really curious to see if they're going to utilize that and dig a bit deeper into, because it's very general to talk about health and CrossFit and the effects because we have 15,000 affiliates. It's like the only number they know is that they have 15,000 affiliates. They should ask us how many members we have, how many of our members lost a certain amount of kilograms, how many of them came in with type 2 diabetes or some of these chronic diseases. How long has it been? Do we have anyone that recovered from those? Back injuries. A lot of people come in here with a back injury and then it disappears. There's a lot of measurable data that I'm quite curious to see how they're gonna, or if they're gonna utilize that at all.
And you touched on it as well now. On the ground level, that growing of affiliates definitely has a direct correlation to the sport. I mean, if we look at us in general, I don't think we would be as passionate about this if we didn't have to look forward to so many local fun competitions. Not that we're going to go to the games, not that we're going to be regional level athletes or even make it to a sanctional the way that things stand. But the fact that we get to throw down with our best friends in the world 6 times a year is the reason we open an affiliate, to share that with other people.
And it's inspiring to go to a competition. I mean, we go to a lot of competitions. We have a lot of fun locally. We don't go there to win. We finish 50th out of 100 teams, and we have just as much fun as a team that finished first, or probably teams that finished 80th. But it's still cool to go there and see guys in South Africa being miles ahead of us, doing a clean and jerk 160, 165, whatever that might be. So, yes, competition to some people is a scary thought, but competition is the driver to why we do what we do. We want to be better. This year I finished 50th, next year I want to finish 40th. There's improvement. Or I just want to beat my 2K road time.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, I know we didn't want an athlete's gym only, because that's definitely not what we were working for. But again, there's so much value in competition to just build that camaraderie and that community outside of the 4 walls we have here.
But it goes further than that, and I think this is where the Winter Games become such an important factor, is because it gives some sort of energy that you can have some common ground with. How often do we sit and we talk about and we debate athletes' stats and how their season's gone, and who's your favorite athlete, who's doing well this year, who do you think is going to win this competition, X, Y, and Z. And it's glue in your community, just to have these topics to talk about and to bond over. And especially if you have somebody that's sort of new to the CrossFit community and isn't that vocal about themselves, or is a little bit more shy than somebody else, it's a nice bridge for you to say, hey, have you watched the CrossFit Games? Who's your favorite athlete? What is this guy all about? Have you researched this guy? And this gives you that link. So if you don't have something like that, what do you say to the guy often? Come to the gym, train, see you next week.
Yeah. No, but exactly that. It's some form of commonality that we can very easily share and build a relationship off that, because you can very high level chat about Matt Fraser's overhead squat, and that could roll into a friendship, because that's truly what it is. I mean, we literally became friends of watching the games together, and it just rolled on from there. So it is absolutely, it's more than just me training next to you and telling you, wow, well done with your thruster. And then we go and look at other people and they make us look foolish, and then you find some commonality there.
And I think also, I mean, going back to the games, the fact that the games is so diverse in age group and different categories to watch, for example, that means that a 60-year-old lady that joins your gym can watch the games because she can see ladies that are her age, and it's an inspiration for her to see what's possible at her age. she will come back and say, I watched the games this weekend. She may not have watched Matt Fraser, but she watched the whole 60-year-old age group division. And again, that's that commonality. What sport in the world do you have such a wide range of competitors and people watching? It's very, very rare, which is quite cool to see. And I think that is a massive draw card when it comes to the sports side of things.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be clear, and we're not saying that in order to do CrossFit you have to be competitive, and in order to do this you have to enter every competition and whatever the case may be, because that's not what we're saying at all. There are many members that come through these doors that are just interested in coming to get fit, get healthy, go home and enjoy time with their family.
Having said that, a lot of those members that don't compete, and I respect you not competing, will watch the games.
Yes, absolutely.
Come and watch local competitions because it's fun. Yes. Not everyone plays rugby, but a lot of people watch rugby. A lot of people that watch rugby have never played rugby in their lives, or football or whatever. It's fun to watch these things because, again, there's some common ground. Yes, I do that in my own friendly time, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch something that you sort of feel a part of or you can relate to.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, not moving on. For me, the finances and the numbers. I really want to know what this guy paid, and I sort of crunched some numbers, and I know his ex-wife offered 50 million, and he
so there
turned
were
it down.
There was two known offers that have been publicly announced that I'm sure you guys have heard about. So one was from, I think it was called Goat Wine or something. I think it's Margot Alvarez's company. And as far as I know, it was her and a group of investors that were going to put 25 million on the table. I don't know if they offered that, because she mentions in that article that when they saw the 50 million article, they knew the 50 million offer, they knew they weren't going to get it. Then his ex-wife offered 50 million. We all know there's a lot of backhandedness behind that, and there's been a lot of fighting over the past through that. So we all knew that wasn't going to happen, but I don't think that they would have accepted anything less than
But
that.
now, so I went and did the numbers this morning, and let's assume they still have 15,000 affiliates. I know there were 1,000 or whatever, 200 that de-affiliated. If they actually de-affiliated, I don't know where they'll get
so
those
the
stats.
exact number was, and this was last week Friday, Arm & Hammer had the stats with him about who had actually de-affiliated and who was waiting for their renewal, basically. And of the 2,000, it was 2,400, 2,500 that Morning Chalk Up said were definitely de-affiliating. Only 450 of them actually had to that point.
So at 14,000 or 15,000, and let's assume a very small portion were grandfathered into a cheaper rate at $3,000 a year, you're looking at $45 million a year in income just from your affiliation. Now let's just exclude for a second, the income from their training programs, the royalties from Reebok and Rogue for using the CrossFit brand on their stuff, and the games. Let's assume there's nothing there, and we assume that 50% of the income is expenses, which is highly unlikely. $22.5 million for salaries, because they only have that one office.
They also only have up to 100 staff.
Up to 100 staff. But I mean, we say that they only make $22 million profit a year. That means at $50 million, you are stealing that company. So the research I did, so if you look at investment jargon, a PE is called a price earnings multiple, and it basically just means that if I make $22 million a year and you offer me 50 or 44 million, you believe that you'll make back that offer in 2 years' time, because you're going to make profit of 25 or $22 million a year. The average for the fitness industry, the average PE is 20, which would mean that at $20 million times 20, you're looking at an offer around $400 million to make sense if you just take this on investment case. Now, I know there's a lot of things that would, this is a private company and not a listed company. $400 million. That is, if you just take it as it stands today, and I can guarantee you this guy did not pay $400 million. He probably didn't even pay $100 million. So I'm really excited to see where they can take this. I think you know, like I said, being a business mind, this guy took this company for a steal. Greg got what he wanted. He just wanted out, and he got a fair share for what he's built. But it's stage 2 now. This is the next phase of CrossFit. I believe it's going to go in a better direction, or in just again in a similar direction. We just want to be aligned. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel I wanted to be listened to a certain degree. You know, you pay this money and you just put CrossFit on your door and thanks, you know, that's what you get. So maybe if there's a bit of back and forth, how do you guys feel? And given that this guy is an affiliate owner, I'm pretty sure we're in for quite an exciting 18 months from here.
If only just to prove a point. Yeah. I think that they're going to make some deliberate and definite changes just to make sure that people see this change. And I think no matter the reasoning, I guess, that's going to be positive, because they want people to see that they're actively trying to make a difference. And this is where recapturing those de-affiliated members is probably going to be a top priority for this guy, for Eric Rosa, because I think he wants to prove that he can do better pretty easily. I think he can prove that it doesn't take much work, just a business sense, to be able to do better.
I think 3 things that came out of this that's very exciting for me is the one is that he has owned a company. That one of the big issues now with CrossFit is the actual internal workings of the company, the people working at HQ. Supposedly it's not an enjoyable place to work, or it wasn't an enjoyable place to work. He was in a company that was voted, I think, in one of the top places in the world to work.
In 2014?
In 2014.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct,
so in enjoyable place to work, so he'll create an awesome environment. Second thing that he mentioned that excited me a lot was he said that he wants to provide, like you said, some sort of dividends almost to people that are invested in CrossFit. He wants to show them what it's worth, which I think is very different to what's previously happened. I think previously CrossFit has been used as a tool to affect the world, but the people that are within it haven't really reaped any benefits from it. So he mentioned specifically that that's what he's looking to do, and it's what he's been doing with his business forever. So that's also exciting. And I think the last thing he said was, as affiliates, he's not going to change the affiliate model, but he wants to look at different options, because he doesn't believe that if you're a gym in New York City, your circumstances are the same as a gym in a park in Kenya, for example. And I think that is, as a South African affiliate, that is really something that we are keen to hear about, because, you know, economically we are not the same as a gym in the States, and we cannot be seen the same way because of the fact of, if we have to pay the same affiliate fees just on exchange rates, we're 15 times behind them. Do you know what I mean? So that for me was quite exciting.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Drop your comments down below. Like and subscribe our channel. We're going to end it off with Nick's legendary dad joke. Nick, take it away.
I got a confession to make. I'm a pretty funny guy myself.
This is an oldie, but I think it's pretty goodie for
Pretty
this.
goodie.
I think it's a pretty good one for this one. Before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes. And then who cares? You're a mile away and you've got his shoes.
Oh, it's so relevant.
Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for another episode coming soon.